So friends,
Please.
Haseeb is here now and I'm going to introduce him to you. So Haseeb Shaikh is a keen wildlife and nature enthusiast who works as a freelance naturalist with an experience as a consultant with a wildlife, nature and conservation education center promoting nature and environment education and awareness. He began his career by studying the behavior of leopards in the wild for 15 years at Jambu Ghoda Wildlife Sanctuary near Baroda, and he has been active in promotion and conservation of biodiversity of this region. He frequented the Gir National Park to study Asiatic lions. He's official snake and crocodile handler and a rescuer for Gujarat Forest Department. He's also an artist and a painter. His art is dedicated to the cause of nature and wildlife. In 2009, he led a group of 8,000 students to create a new Guinness World Record for the world's longest painting on pollution in Baroda city. Wow, that's commendable, Ashif. See, that's fantastic. Great. So I'll quickly introduce myself as well, and then you can get started, Haseeb, right after that. I am Mohit Aggarwal. I'm blessed with four children, a son and a daughter, and two non-humans. One is a Labrador, and the other one is an escapee African grey. It's a parrot that sort of landed uh, in my lap one day. It flew into some friend's office, and then he didn't know what to do with it, so he brought him here. And ever since he's been my child. Of course, he's been bred in captivity, and he was owned by somebody we couldn't trace back the owner really. I'm also the follower of Shiva. So professionally, I'm an experiential ecotourism specialist with deep love for nature. I help people travel to some wonderful places in Asia. I'm on the board of Asian Ecotourism Network, and I've been trained and certified by GSTC in sustainable tourism. I'm the founder of Asian Adventures, a 26-year-old travel outfit. It's India's largest bird watching company, tour company. I'm the founder of Nati Netter, an email marketing company as well. Asian Adventures on a large mission to help Asian elephants with their corridors with WTI, Wildlife Trust of India, free the Himalayas of plastic waste, and help small wildlife NGOs, and also conserve the ancient Himalayan shrines. So that was about me, and I will hand over the mic to Haseeb. Haseeb, over to you.
Thank
And
you,
Haseeb,
Mohit bhai. Thank you.
yeah,
Let me.
I will start your slide presentation when you tell me to, and then you can, go back and forth as you like. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you, Mohit bhai. Thank you. And first up, of all the audience that are present right now and listening to us, my apologies. I'm not a gadget man at all, and so it's been a 5 odd minutes, getting things late and all because of me. So I take the blame. Let's talk about lions, straight to the point. And but to understand lions, let's first talk about and understand the biodiversity of our own country. Uh, in brief, if I may tell you, we are a heaven. We are a Garden of Eden, as in the subcontinent. And India has been a veritable storehouse of nature's bounties, of majestic snow-capped mountains, lush green valleys, and vast fertile plains. And it has been a kaleidoscope of tropical, temperate, alpine, desert, savanna, riparian, and eusterine vegetation. Now, India has roughly, when we give figures as naturalists, wildlifers, field biologists, or the so-called experts, whatever, it also always has to be the word roughly. So roughly 500 species of mammals and 2,000 species of birds. That's our avian fauna, which is about 1/10 of avian species known to inhabit the earth. Now, this is something that no other country has. Uh, so as proud Indians, we move forward that other than the inevitable tiger, India has a lion. So India has both the zenith predators, at the top, right there. Only country in the world. The only other place on the planet other than the continent of Africa where the lions are found. Lion has been known to man since ancient times, especially because of its majestic appearance and characteristics behavioral pattern. And so people of ancient times gave it a royal place in the mythology, art, folklore, royalty, uh, and so on and so forth. And lion has been known to man since ancient times. Lion has made a deeper and more lasting impact on human imagination than any other animal. You know, any other animal. And it attained the prominent place in myth, in fables, in folklore, in the history of mankind, and it is regarded as a symbol of bravery, majesty, magnanimity, and has been elevated to the status of being the king of the beasts. And we are all well acquainted with expressions such as lion-hearted or the lion share as a part of our daily colloquialisms, you know. So to begin with, uh, let us go to the second slide of late Mr. M.A. Rashid, my mentor, my guru, the man who brought me close to wild, the man who educated me and imbibed me with the culture of what, you know, he is late M.A. Rashid. He was also my grand uncle. So my passion for the wild and conservation was inspired by late M.A. Rashid Sahab, who was the first assistant conservation of forests in then the Bombay state, which had both Maharashtra and Gujarat in it. And he was the chief editor of the Forest Research Institute editorial board, and then the dean of the first college between Dehradun College of Wildlife between 1968 to 1972. When the state was divided between Gujarat and Maharashtra in 1960, he was allocated the state of Gujarat. And at first he reluctantly accepted, but in due course he realized that he was very fortunate. Back then Gujarat had recorded 40 species of mammals that we are talking about from 1960, and about 425 species of birds. But this included two very valuable species. One was the wild ass, another was the Asiatic lion, the indomitable one, you know. Late Mr. M.A. Rashid worked hard on making Gir an epicenter of wildlife destinations in Gujarat, and his efforts led to him as being remembered as the Bhishma Pitama of modern Gir. And he's credited to have come up and implemented the idea of water points in the deciduous Gir forest for the denizens during the summer. The Devalia Park was his idea near the Gir National Park, where the injured, ailing, and rescued animals were given a shelter and a home in a cordoned enclave open for the visitors in vehicles. And it was during his tenure as Gujarat's wildlife wing from 1975 to 1982 that the number of sanctuaries and national parks in Gujarat increased from 4 to 14. Now this is important. So in his tenure, it was from 4 to 14. The Gir Lion Sanctuary project started by the Gujarat government in 1972, and it was under his M.A. Rashid's tenure that the project got momentum. Let us get on to the lions, part one, as I call it, in mythology, art, and folklore to understand the Asiatic lions of Gir. Since ancient times, it is universally acclaimed as the king of beasts because of its majestic bearing, as I said before, its mane, the color, and no wonder that the lion represented the sun, the solar sun, which has a mane around it. So the mane of the lion is often associated with the solar disk. And the lion is most conspicuous of the zodiac constellations, the Leo constellation as we know it. Coming back to our own country, the symbol of strength and power, and therefore the Rajputs in India always ended their names with C, you know, which means a lion. The Greek general Megasthenes, who was a Greek ambassador at the court of the great King Chandragupta Maurya, reports that the King Chandragupta made lion as a symbol of royalty along with the elephant. You know, elephant always had that position. The lion was elevated. Following Chandragupta Maurya, Ashoka the Great, and who doesn't know him, erected many stupas, rock adits, and columns. But the best preserved of them at Lauria, Nandangarh in Bihar, which date back to 242 BC, has a lion seated on the pillar. And one specimen of the lion during the Maurya age at Sarnath, where the wheel or the chakra supports the four lions. This is very famous. And This is everywhere in our India as a national symbol on the currencies, on the stamp papers and everything. Let's go
Hasib,
to our earlier
Hasib,
slide of
uh,
Narsimha, Lord Narsimha.
yeah. Hasib bhai, I will move your slides so you can just keep telling me when to move them further, as you go along.
Sure, sure, Mohit bhai, sure.
Thank you.
So you see this slide of Lord Narsimha. Now, in Hinduism, the fourth avatar or the incarnation of the Hindu deity, Lord Vishnu, is Narasimha, a powerful being with a human body and the head of a lion who vanquishes the demon king Hiranyakashyap. So you can see how the evil has been conquered by the deva, and the deva has incarnation of lion. Now that shows the importance of the lion in the Hindu mythology. Next slide please. Next slide please. Thank you. No, the one before it, the one before it. Yes, thank you. Now let us be very fair here. But in no other art, the lion has been given such a high honor or place of honor as in the Persian art, whose influence spread all through historic period, especially on the Assyrian art depicted as in the winged lions, human-headed lions, and the sphinxes. Now here we are seeing one very historically important. Now Persia throughout the history has been a great influence in Asia Minor all the way up to India. And the Persian influence is the influence that has gone all through the Caucasian areas, to the eastern part of the Arabian lands, and all the way up to Bangladesh and Burma. The Persian influence has been there through Sassanids in the later periods. But just before the Sassanids, there were Assyrians. Now Assyrians had this tendency to hunt lions. Here in the slide, as you can see, that the which is a wall relief basically, King Assurbanipal, he was attacked when he was hunting the lion. The wounded lioness dragged itself on its forelegs, and before she gave a roar of death, she died. But she is hurt and she's being she was being shot at with the arrows, as you can see on the wall relief right there on the slide, and that shows that the Asia Minor had plenty of lions back then. Next slide please. Yeah. So it's been a story of the lions being getting extinct from the Asia Minor basically. But when we get to see the next slide, we'll understand a Persian miniature of the 15th century, which shows the captive lion by the Sasanian king Bahram Gur. And the presence of lions is testified in Palestine-Israel region through drawings, images, and carvings. Now let's go back even further. King Solomon, from the biblical times, is said to have the ivory throne for injustice, which was flanked by 4 lions. There are mentions of David and Goliath fame, as a young man killing lions along with bears to protect his father's flocks. There is a mention of Samson as in Samson and Delilah, I'm sure you all know. Samson killing a lion with his bare hands. So these are all biblical stories that are there. A notable mention of Daniel being cast into lion's den is very much well known through the Abrahamic books in all the 3, as in the Torah, in the Bible, and in the Quran. The last lion to be killed in that area was 800 years back during the Crusades at Lejum near Megiddo, which is now in present Lebanon. Going back during, again, the Greek times, the lion gate of Mycenae in the 2nd century AD had 2 lions facing each other. And it is said, now this is more of a legend, that King Agamemnon of Mycenae led his army for the siege of Troy, passing under this gate. The famous stone lion of Babylon trampling a man dates back to 1st millennium BC. And lions were accessible to Romans in such a large number during the Roman Empire, that they used it for exhibition and destruction of slaves and enemies in the amphitheaters. And it is said that as many as 600 lions were once used in Pompeii in the amphitheater on a single occasion. Even China has unusual forms of lions, where rocked lion is at the tomb of Emperor Ming Dynasty as a god of honor. Now, this particular slide that is right now on the screen shows the importance of lion. On the left-hand top corner is the Anatolian mother goddess Sibyl, who is riding a lion. So it's Anatolia. Now, Anatolia is the part of Turkey which is totally has an Islamic influence. But back then they were worshippers of this particular mother goddess, Sibyl, one of the goddess, who rides on the lion. And the mother goddess of Mesopotamia, Ishtar, with the crow feet, which is the right-hand top corner picture, again rides on the lion. Now, coincidentally, back home with us here in India and the subcontinent, goddess Durga, the Hindu goddess Durga, with 8 to 10 hands often, also and always rides a lion. Sometimes you can see her on or a tiger too, but majority she rides a lion. Now here you can see the distribution of lions, as well as the deep past into which the strength of the lion has been described, the divinity of lion has been described. So let's go to our part 2, the origin, past, and the present distribution of lions in India. Now, this is the slide right now that is being shown, which we already talked about. It's a miniature, a Persian miniature, hand-drawn by late M.A. Rashid Sahab, which has Behram Gur, handling his tame lion. Now, if we can go to the next slide, please. Now, this is the world distribution of lion. Lion is known to be a migrant into Africa and India from its original home in Central Europe. Now, both the big cats are migrants. The tiger is a migrant as well, and so was the lion. And the lion, had its what we may call it. I may use this term as headquarters in Central Asia, and they migrated from Central Asia all the way, as you can, if you follow the dotted line on the screen, all the way up to where the Levant, or where the land of Israel and the peninsula of Sinai, which is the eastern part of Egypt right now, is. And from there, the lion prides may have been separated. One pride getting into Africa, the northern Africa, and then moving southwards, and the other crossing the Asia Minor and getting into India, as you can see on the screen. So it has been a migrant from its original home, which was in Central Europe, and it migrated southeastward, and then it diverged into two opposite directions, one westwards into Africa, and other eastwards into Persia, Iran, and finally it ended up in our subcontinent. Unfortunate that the lions totally disappeared from Europe about 100 AD. So it was year 100 AD when Europe just ended with its pride of boasting having a lion. If we can move on to the second slide. Next slide, please. Now this is the the slide before it. Thank you. Now this is the distribution of lion throughout India. And it is understood that the lions migrated into the Indian subcontinent at least 6,000 years ago. 6,000 years ago. So this is a figure that feline lovers or big cat lovers should just keep in mind. The original range of the lion distribution in Asia covered Mesopotamia, which is now Iraq, Arabia, which is the mainland Saudi Arabia, what we called it, Persia, which is Iran, and the Indian subcontinent. And they were abandoned up to the end of 18th century. Now, Europe lost it in 100 AD, but up to the end of the 18th century, Asia Minor, Arabia, Mesopotamia, even the land of Judea, which is now Palestine, lands of Palestine and Israel, had lions up to the end of 18th century. Uh, However, with the advent of the firearms in the 19th century, the lions were heavily persecuted to an extent that it was practically driven to the verge of extinction throughout Asia. Same thing happened in our own subcontinent too. The lion in the Indian subcontinent spread across far and wide, where there were no but there were no signs that it crossed the Narmada. Now, Narmada is on the southern end of Gujarat and right on the northern end of Maharashtra. So the lions never, important, the lions never went south of Narmada River. They were always, Gujarat was as south as it went into our own subcontinent, and it never ventured anywhere beyond Narmada, that is in the states of Maharashtra and Karnataka and Kerala and Tamil Nadu and Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. They were never there. So they are all below the Narmada River. Other than the small pocket of Gir, the last sightings of Asiatic lion in the wild in the different part of Indian subcontinent are found between the years 1800 to 1890. Now, if you see the slide closely, the areas of sighting are Sindh and Punjab in Pakistan, and the Indian areas of Delhi. Now, a couple of days back, Mohit Bhai had just sent me a question which I had answered in detail about sighting in the area of Delhi. It was not exactly the Delhi city back then, which was the old Delhi city, but in the suburb outside the Delhi city. Punjab and Haryana, they were aplenty. So much, now this is important, so much found in the areas of Punjab, Haryana and the Indus areas that once the Asiatic lion was also called the Haryana lion. Haryana was back then the part of Subai Punjab, the greater Punjab, which included the Indus areas of the Punjab areas, which are now in Pakistan, and the Himachal and the Haryana itself. So it was called the Haryana lion back then. And then in Rajasthan, they were all spread across Kota and other parts of areas. In Madhya Pradesh, they were sighted in different times. If you see the slide in Guna, in Shivpuri, in Gwalior, in Jhansi, and then other parts of the central India. But then Madhya Pradesh is again divided by the Narmada River, which begins from Jabalpur. So the Malwa side, the southern Madhya Pradesh, never had lions. The northern had. Okay, and in central India, northern India, Allahabad, Bundelkhand, and other parts of Uttar Pradesh, all the way up to Palamau, the sightings were there at the end of the 18th or the 19th century. That is in Bihar. Now, Gir lions and Palamau area in Bihar are almost about 1800 kilometers away. So the lion had a big span coming up, back then, before it got extinct in all these areas and was left into the final pocket. If Mohit Bhai can please go to the next slide. So now, this area, what you see in the slide, is the only area where in the peninsular part of Gujarat, which is known as either Saurashtra or Kathiawar, the southern tip of the peninsula had this state of Junagadh and the forests of the Gir National Park, and that was the only concentrated area now remains as the pocket of the lion, which we call the Asiatic lion. And this is the only other species of lion other than the African lion in the world. So we as Indians are so lucky to have it. So in and around what is now 1,412 square kilometers, this lions are distributed back then, and they were hunted and they were persecuted because of their majestic look so much that by the turn of the when 20th century crept in, there were only 22 specimens left in the wild, only 22. So that we shall talk about it further. So this is the Saurashtra Peninsula that you are seeing it. where the concentration of lion is being shown as in the graphed up lines, dense graphed up lines, is came under the rule of the erstwhile Nawabs of Junagadh, and that's the area where basically the lion is. Let's now talk about the Gir forest habitat. If Mohit bhai, can you please go to the next slide? Now this will give you the modern mapping area, which is kind of a Miami green color patch right there in the southern peninsula, surrounded by the Gulf of Khambat in the Arabian Sea, is the patch where the lions are. But the lions have moved beyond that patch, well beyond that patch, and they have been sighted right on the seashore down south, where you can see the island of Diu. So this is the last and the only stronghold of the Asiatic lion in the wild, the Gir National Park, which was declared as a national park in 1965, with an aim, of course, to conserve the Asiatic lion. Today, in its 1,400 square kilometer area, 1,412 to be precise, as per the government records, the national park has somewhere around roughly, and always using the word roughly for a naturalist or field biologist is preferred, it's about 625 odd. But let me tell you here, let me be bold and very fair and square. It's a very nice policy by the government to declare the numbers lesser than what they actually are, in a way, so that people remain concerned. And that's a nice idea to do, actually. So this is the modern map. Uh, and the Gir has a very deciduous landscape. If Mohit bhai, can you please go on to the next slide? This is a picture taken when I was taken picture by me on my cell phone. When it was early morning and the sunlight was just filtering through a sea of beautiful trees in January. And I had a German team along with me, and I was just taking them along, and they really liked this, so they just asked me to stop, and they were taking pictures of this light filtering through typical Gir landscape. And you can see the track on the right hand side going through, as in a a road that takes the gypsies through. But exactly 7 minutes or 8 minutes after we again started, there was a nice roaring lioness calling for its mate right away into the thicket. So the terrain is a very rugged and a hilly one, but it's a perfect example of a tropical dry and mixed deciduous forest with teak as a principal species. Tectona grandis, teak, is a principal species here. And the temperature varies from 8 degrees centigrade, as it is a peninsula, in January, to 42 degrees centigrade in May. Now, 42 degrees centigrade sometimes could be 47 degrees centigrade, but on an average it is 42. And I dare you all that you won't find an average hotter place in India than Gujarat at times. We are located in such a way geographically that we can be cold, but in summers you can just, it's a recommended no come to Gujarat in summers if you're not used to that kind of a heat. And the annual rainfall in Gir is about 800 mm, which is the highest not just in Gujarat but also in the Saurashtra Peninsula. And in summers between April and June, the forest looks very bare and open, golden it looks. It becomes a kind of a dry grassland in summer times. But with advent of monsoons in June, the landscape dramatically changes into lush green, with trees turning green, and the dry land outgrowths of grasses and cypress and succulents. And so it becomes, if you take two different pictures, one in midsummer and one in mid-winter, after the rains, in about when the winters begin, it will be a difference of north and south. It's amazing, magical change right there. Like all other national parks, like majority of national parks in India, it remains closed during the monsoon time, that is from June to October every year. if we can move on to the next slide, please. Thank you very much. A very typical majestic Asiatic lion of Gir. Where else but Gir? So the Asiatic lion is the largest predator and occupies, of course, the apex position in the biological pyramid, what is so called the biological pyramid in the Gir ecosystem. Uh, the natural prey of the Asiatic lion consists of wild ungulates like leopards, sasan, and
We can't hear you, Haseeb bhai. Can everybody hear Haseeb? Okay, Haseeb has been signed out. So could you could you just check with Haseeb if he's going to come back? It looks like he's lost his connection. Friends, give me a minute to check if Haseeb is going to be back soon or if he has a problem with his slideshow. Haseeb is back now. Haseeb, we can't hear you now. He has connection problems, it seems. So we'll give it another minute, or otherwise I will continue with the slideshow.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, I'm so sorry that something went wrong. I apologize again. So here we are talking about the Asiatic lion. Am I audible first?
Yes, to me you
Yeah.
are. If other people can hear him, please say yes in the chat so we know that he's audible to everyone.
Okay. Okay. So then other than the wild boar where it all went wrong, the four-horned antelope, which is a rarity, nowadays, the four-horned antelope, and then there is the chinkara, and sometimes it may be lucky to catch a langur monkey while on a hunt. Uh, so another myth about this great feline that we have is that uh, sense of smell or sense of vision, but actually the 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 its most positive sense is the sense of hearing, and it is about 70 to 90% dependent upon its prey on the sense of hearing. uh, let's go back to the lion slide. We shall come back to this slide later. Yeah, thank you very much. The lion, of course, is the most social of all the cat family and has the strongest of family ties. And this is the main reason why it is the most vocal of all the cats, So a married man, of course, is less vocal, but the lions, despite having more than a wife, is a very vocal cat, and so is the entire pride. And the pride of an Asiatic lion could be anywhere. Asiatic lion, I'm talking about. Please do not compare it with the, or rather, confuse yourself with the African lion. Could be 8 to 20 individuals. The largest pride ever recorded at Gir is about 22 individuals. Now, when we say individuals, as in a bigger feline, we never talk or we never count the cubs. We never, sub-adults are counted, but not the juveniles. So yeah, when in the vicinity of Gir National Park, you're guaranteed of hearing the Asiatic lions roar at least once in the night, and the most probable time is just after the sunset. When the sun set, that is the most probable time in Gir when you get to hear the Asiatic lion, no matter where you are, because the roar is majestic, it's magnanimous, and wherever you are within the vicinity of Gir, wherever you're studying, you're guaranteed of. And this is for years I've been going out there, and I know it. So I'm sure next time when you go around, as long as you don't lock up your rooms and pack it up, So it's about a couple of kilometers that the road, even a simple road could go, through the air. Uh, Now, the courtship between the male and the female Asiatic lions lasts up to 40 to 45 days. So it's more or less, on an average, as in the feline family. Uh, and in these days, both the male and female, are often found between 4 to 5 meters of each other. So they do not let each other go away. Uh, and it is the lioness. Now, this is important. It is the lioness that usually initiates the mating, uh, which is not such a common thing. The gestation period is generally about 105 to 110 days. Now, this is something again common in the entire feline family. And the litter of the Asiatic lion generally consists of 2 to 4 cubs on an average. Sometimes they could be 5. Sometimes there have been cases where it has just been a single cub. It's been a rare case though, but generally it is 2 to 4 cubs. In the local Saurashtrian Gujarati dialect, which is spoken in that area where the sasan Gir lies and where the lions are seen, the Asiatic lion is called the Savaj. If I may spell it for you, Sawaj is what they call it. And in mainstream Gujarati dialect, it is called Si, which is again common with the Hindi word Si. While in Urdu, it's called the Babar Sher. Babar Sher. So a tiger is Sher in Urdu, and a lion is a Babar Sher in Urdu. If we can go to the next slide, Mohit bhai, please. Thank you, Mohit bhai. Now this would be this is the most asked question when I take my inbound friends or guests out to Gir or any other national park, but especially at Gir when it comes to lion, because most of them would have seen Africa as being frequent travelers. And when they come to Gir with a great deal of enthusiasm and surprise to see this Asiatic lion, this is a question they ask me. That is the difference between the Asiatic lion and the African lion. So let us go through this. Uh, so to understand the uniqueness of our Asiatic lion, it is inevitable that we compare first the physical attributes with the African lion. The average length of the male Asiatic lion is about 2.70 meters. Average is a keyword here, okay? While the African counterpart is a bit longer, right? The big male Asiatic lion weighs about, on an average, again, 250 kgs and is stockier in build, while the male African lion, which can go up to 280 kgs or more at times. So the average is 280 kgs. The Asiatic lion has a smaller and a lighter mane as in the hair which is around, which begins from the back of the ears and back of the cheeks, goes right with, covers the entire neck. And if you draw a line from shoulder to shoulder, it just ends up there, but goes back all the way down to the chest. For the lions in general, be it African or Indian. But the difference between the Asiatic and African is the mane goes just around the neck, and at times some mature males have been known to have just a superficial mane, So there have been times recorded where a mature male in Gir, is mistaken for a lioness because of loss of the mane entirely. There have been cases recorded that way. While the African lion has this dense and dark mane, which begins right from the forehead and extends up to its shoulders and goes all the way around. And if you see the Lion King and animated movie, they have so exaggeratedly shown it and animated it as we can see it, and we see it a lot on the TV, and those who have visited Africa must have seen this magnanimous, this huge lovely mane. It feels like you take a comb, the women feel like taking a comb and making the chotis right out there on the mane itself, so it goes. The Asiatic lion has a prominent belly fringe. Very important, belly fringe. Now you can also call it a belly fold. Now, this belly fringe begins from its breast and goes all the way up to the hind legs. We shall see this in one of the slides that has been aided by the Asian Adventures team. They added a slide where the Asiatic lion and the African lion, they are standing side by side in the picture, or they are being shown in the picture, where we will see this belly fringe right there, which is also called the belly fold, while it is totally absent in the African lion. They don't have this belly fringe. They are like this muscular bodybuilders that we see on the television or in the magazines. It's a very symmetrical body that they have. Now, the coat of the Asiatic lion is dark and dull, so dark that in Saurasian language, for some dominant lions who grow very dark, they call it the jambuo, as in a plum, the dark purplish plum that we eat, or what we call the jamun. So they call that lion jambudo. So it's so dark and so dull. While the African lion has this golden coat, shiny golden coat, when compared to the Asiatic lion, which doesn't mean that we are downgrading the Asiatic lion. This is a difference which we are talking about. And the lions, as we all know, are the only members of the feline or the cat family with tufted tails. The Africans and the Indians both have Asiatic and the African both have the tufted tails. But the tuft of the Asiatic lion on the tail is smaller than that of the African counterpart. But one of the places where the Asiatic lion wins the battle here is the elbow tufts, very prominent in the Asiatic lion, while it's almost absent in the African lion. That is, on the front, the forelegs, elbows, they have this very prominent hairy tuft right there. Now let's go to the very major point, is the temperament. The temperament of the Asiatic lion, comparatively to the African lion, is very, very, very docile. They are very docile, very tolerant to human presence. The African lion is so aggressive, it doesn't tolerate the human presence. You would just not dare go near it, except when you are dressed in red with a long spear in a hand and they understand who the Maasais are. They would run away from the Maasai just looking at it. But any other human being around it, and they are just not tolerant of a human presence. While our Asiatic lions are as tolerant that there have been times when in the field of my friend, I'm talking about my first-hand example, when the lion just walked into the field, many times, not just once, we just took out sticks and drove it away, as easy as that. So it may sound very funny, but yeah, it is a fact. The territory marking in the Asiatic lion is done by adult males only. Very important. The territory marking is done by adult male only, while in Africa it is done by both the sexes, the male and the female, both. If I may request Mohit bhai to go to the next slide, please. That is the comparison we were talking about. You can see the coat, which is dull. You can see the mane on the right hand side with the Asiatic lion, that is very small compared to the majestic mane to the left, which is the African lion. You can see the body symmetrical, the symmetrical body of the Asiatic lion, by the stockier build to the right of the Asiatic lion. The coat color very faded, very dull on the right as in Asiatic lion, while on the left is the golden shiny coat color. The aggression on the face, the one to the left, which is an African one, is like, it's just saying, who the hell are you? While the one on the right is just saying, sir, may I know who you are? So that's basically the difference. Let's go to the next slide, please, Mohit bhai. Thank you, Mohit bhai. Other mammals in the Gir National Park. So other than the Asiatic lion, the Gir has 38 species of mammals. 38 species, I repeat. And to name a few, leopard, which comes as in a predator, second to the lion. Hyena, that is the Indian striped hyena. Jackals, jungle cat, civet, common langur, rattle, pangolin, mongoose, black-naped hare, and various kind of ungulates such as the cheetal, sambar, blue bull, wild boar, four-horn antelope, chinkara, not to forget the chinkara. So these are the different, mammals that you find at the Gir National Park. Uh, Other than our main concentration, our hero of the day, the Asiatic lion, and its hero any day. Next slide, please, Bhai. Thank you. That is the leopard that we were talking about. Next, please. That's the jungle cat, or rather the rusty. I'm so sorry, it's the rusty spotted cat. I'm getting 40. I'm 49, so my sight is just going. Next, please. You can see the hyena. Now the hyenas are there, but the sighting of a hyena at Gir is a very, very rare one. In my 30 years of ventures into Gir National Park, I have seen the hyena only 3 to 4 times. But they are there. Next slide, please. That's the chinkara or the gazelle. It runs so beautifully that the Urdu word ghazal of a beautiful melodious song comes from it. You know, the Urdu word ghazal of a beautiful song performed comes from gazelle. So it is ghazala in Arabic, moving like a flowing river. So it's a beautiful mower. Next slide, please. So let's get onto our reptiles at the Gir National Park. There are 37 species of reptiles found at Gir. To name a few, one can find the king of reptiles, the marsh crocodile, as in this part of the world, the rock python, the beautiful, amazing, enchanting, it's a lovely reptile. The cobra, of course, monitor lizard, and many more. So these are just an example. So if we go to the next slide, you will see the Asian Adventure Team says, for your benefit, has put up some nice pictures of the Indian mugger or the Crocodilus palastruis. And this is aplenty in all the small and big 7 rivers of Gir, barring the two, or rather, if we just leave out the two major rivers, they are still there in small and big ponds. They are there in almost every pond, huge pond near a resort or a hotel. If there is a huge pond somewhere around there, they somehow just come in there. And you will find at least 1 or 2 of them in that pond. And your host or the team of your host would just request you not to go too close to that particular pond in any part of the Gir, because they would be, you'll find that board that there are crocodiles there. Next slide, please. So that's the monitor lizard. Very interesting. And these are such a lovely creatures that other than Gir, they're everywhere, all throughout India. And they are in Ahmedabad city where I live aplenty. Every second or third day, I get a call to rescue them. Very adaptable. Like leopards, these are very adaptable reptiles, So next slide. That's okay. Thank you, Mohit bhai. So let's talk about the flora at Gir. As I told you that the primary forest of Gir is, its outgrowth is the teak or Tectona grandis. Other than teak, what you can find is what they locally called as sadar, which is Terminalia crenulata, and then the behda, that is Terminalia bellarica, and then the shemal. Now, surprisingly, the shemal is something that adapts to the cold climate and is always on the hilly slopes, as in northern India and Corbett regions are plenty. But shemal is found plenty in Gir. It was known as Bombex saiba before. Now they've changed it to Salmelia ruda, as in the binomial or the scientific name. Another interesting tree that we find in Gir is the kadea or the ghost tree. It's white, and in the full moon night, it might just scare you just scare you, like someone standing. If the branches are fogged into just two, it will be like a huge ghost standing right there. Beautiful tree, Stercula urens is the scientific name, and it's a medicinal tree though. Then there is indica, what is called karanj. Then this beautiful flame of the forest, the Cassia fistula, which is locally called the garmaro, Cassia fistula, not Acacia catechu, or the khair, which is called both in Urdu, Hindi, and in Gujarati also. It's called khair, Acacia catechu, the powder of which is used in the pan that we eat, and of course, not to forget the Butea monosperma, the Butea monosperma, or what we call in the local language as the kesu, you know, or the palash in Bengali, and in Hindi palash it is called. So these are the beautiful. When Mohit Bhai goes to the next slide, you will see some trees, I presume. Yes, this is a very typical. Thank you, Mohit Bhai. Wonderful picture. Typical forest, typical terrain of the Gir forest. And next slide, please. And these are the beautiful, shimal trees. This is the this has to be the Kesuda, or is it the shimal? It is the shimal. Okay, Kesuda
There's
or
a
the
camel.
palash. Yeah, I'm losing my eyesight, sir. I'm losing my eyesight. Yeah. So now let's talk about uh, you know uh, Gir has a lovely biodiversity, but the birds in Gir, there are plenty. There are plenty of birds in Gir. But let us just go through. Uh, the Gir National Park has a very rich bird life. In 1992, the total bird species that were recorded in Gir in 1992 was 250. But as of today, there are more than 320 species of bird already recorded at Gir National Park, and it has there's a known cliche in and around Gir and in Gujarat that if Gir did not have the Asiatic lion, it would still have been the most visited wildlife destinations in Gujarat as a birding destination. Just remember this. It is still said around, and it is a famous cliche that it would still have been a birding paradise. The bird diversity includes waders and raptors, pheasants and cranes, doves and kingfishers, woodpeckers and flycatchers, warblers and wagtails and buntings, flowerpeckers, mynas, orioles, shrikes, and vultures. Not to forget our own lovely things, those carrions. The vultures are amazing. Uh, but my personal favorite at Gir, which I inevitably find even in the farmlands, is the paradise flycatcher. It's the most commonly seen of the beautiful birds in Gir, the paradise flycatcher. But you just have to go to someone's farm and you'll find it. You know, the chances of seeing the paradise flycatcher is more in someone's private farm at Gir rather than in the national park. Uh, the slides, please. Uh, though the mottled wood owl has been a very projected bird or avian species of Gir, and of course it is found aplenty. But despite that, these are such a lovely camouflaged birds that even the guides miss them at times. Those who know exact location of it or its regular places of perch or hiding, they still just get baffled with this beautiful camouflage of the mottled wood owl. Next, please.
I just wanted to intervene for a second, Haseeb. I
Yes,
was
sir.
just saying that we were supposed to end at 8:30, but that's fine. What we can do is we can continue. I just wanted to let all the friends here know that if you want to leave or if you think it's going to be long drawn, no problem with that, because tomorrow in the evening you will get the replay link as well. So in case if you do miss out a part of it, if you're in a hurry, no problem whatsoever. Just be rest assured that you'd get the replay link. So we'll continue.
Thank you, Mohit, Bhai, for reminding me. Let me be fast here. So next, these are the birds. And next, please. Next, please. So our friends are going through this. Next, please, so that I can save time. Now, this is the saviors of lion, as well put by the Asian adventure team there. So typical Maldari, these are the dwellers of the Maldaris are a pastoral community. You can call them the shepherd tribe who dwell deep into the forest, and they coexist with the Asiatic lion for about 150 years. They coexist. The word Maldari roughly translates into the professional cattle owners. They live in the circular enclosure, which is the upper part picture of the two pictures. Typical Mardhari is in the picture which is below. The upper picture, one at the top, is its typical residence called the nest, as in NESS. Multiple families are a part, or the extended family are a part of this nest, which is a circular enclosure consisting about 6 to 8 houses, and one common gate, as you can see in the picture, leads to the enclosure when entered. In the dark hours of the night, the Maldaris spend their livestock in the open area in the middle of the enclosure, which consists of mainly cows and buffaloes, and sometimes goat and sheep, and sometimes camels too. The nest, being cordoned enclosed structure, protects the livestock of the Maldari from any probable approach of a lion or a leopard. There used to be about 120 such nests in 1992, but today there are less than 25 such nests around in the core areas of the forest. And over the years, the Gujarat Forest Department and the government of Gujarat and NGOs have successfully relocated the Maldaris from inside the national park to outside by offering them, as in terms, land, money, and employment. And next slide, please. Now the as in SIDDI. Now the Gir Forest or the National Park is the home to the largest group of Africans in India. They are known as the Sidi or the Badshahs at times. And there are multiple stories on how they ended up at Gir. But the most logical of them is about 300 years back, 250 to 300 years back, they were brought by the Nawab of Junagadh from Africa to serve his state, and these African servants were used to forest back in Africa, and with the lions. So they were brought there very logically. And they were useful at gears to keep an eye on the lion. They were strong, hard workers, good runners, and very honest servants. Uh, till 25 to 30 years back, the Siddhis and in African Indians were in a very bad shape and social structure till the state government intervened and declared them as a scheduled tribe and offered them lands for farming. There are two major villages. For those who are visiting Gir, they should understand this and they should visit this place, which are named as Sirwan and Jambur. They were given by the government and they are just 99% African Indians. And now they have joined the mainstream, and they are mainly employed at the Gir National Park as trekkers, drivers, and guides. Uh, uh, Most high-end properties at Gir National Park entertain their guests with their dance, which has an African shade in it called the dhamal. Now, this dance is called dhamal. The word dhamal comes from these people, what we normally use in our language. So the dance is called dhamal. It's a very cacophony, full of cacophony dance, and they do all the acts that suits a typical African tribesman, so very close to them. They are fearless and they are equally home at the forest. Interestingly, over the period of few centuries, they have adopted the Kathiawadi Gujarati uh, dialect as their mother tongue. So they no more speak African; they speak Kathiawadi Gujarati dialect. Next slide, please. Yeah. Now, this is a very typical picture. The guy standing next to me is a very important person too. He is a Shikari. Now, Shikari is a community or the people in Gir, as an account of a human, this full, beautiful Shikari community. I respect them so much, and they are such a lovely people. Uh, their human element in Gir would be incomplete without their mention. Uh, the rough meaning of shikari is a tracker, and the shikaris are intimately associated with the Gir lions. The older generation of the same shikaris, or most of the shikaris who are now working in Gir, their older generation were in the service of the erstwhile Nawabs of Junagadh as trackers. They are expert lion trackers. There's, they use the sights and the sounds and the wind direction, the smell, the pug marks, the scratch marks, the scent marks to track a lion down. And they have intimate knowledge of the habits and the behavior of the lions, not just the lions, of the other predators and other animals too, and both the flora and fauna. And over decades of tracking, close intimacy, an atmosphere of mutual confidence, of trust has been built up between the shikaris and the lions. Now, this particular gentleman in the picture who is standing next to me, when he heard that I was there, his name is Murad Khan Baloch. He asked me to bring my little son with me. So I took my son, he blessed my son, and he's directly responsible in tracking 90% of National Geographic or Discovery or our Doordarshan productions that have come up on the Asiatic lion. 90% of those lions were tracked by him so that they could be filmed on the screen. Amazing, and unfortunately he still works as a daily wager there, so that's a pathetic part of the story which can for some another day. And They have this ultimate knowledge, and they are always dressed in these khaki dresses, so the lions know them through these khaki dresses that they wear. Let us go to this another part of the human lion conflict at the Gir and the other dangers. As small villages and hamlets and nasses often attract lions in the hope of lifting up the stray cattle. In the 70s, 80s, and 90s, there used to be a dangerous tendency of poisoning the carcass of the prey by the villagers and the Maldharis, of course. And the lions, being social animals, always feasted on this poisoned carcasses. So therefore, the toll of the lion mortality was high because they lived in prides and they ate in prides. So it's not just one animal that would die; the whole pride would just succumb to the poison or the poison carcass. To resolve this conflict issue, the state government of Gujarat began giving out compensation, if at all needed, for the cattle of the Maldharis or the other tribes that dwell within the cordon or the core area rather, yeah, on the cattle lifting basis or the cattle killing basis. The other problems that are being worked are the open wells. Now, somehow in the Saurashtra region, the open wells have always been. Yes, you can go to the other slide. I shall soon be talking on it. So open wells, the wells in Saurashtra and in the Gir areas do not have this parapet around it somehow. So open wells are there, and many times, the juvenile and the sub-adults with less experience just fall into those wells, and they die. So a lot of the companies around the Gir areas and in the Junagadh and Gir Somnath districts came up with this idea of the CSR, that is the complete social responsibility, to build the parapets and to cage up the tops of the wells, which is a good idea, and I welcome it. Uh, and Tiny villages, hamlets, and nesses are all over dotted into even in the core area. So the wells are always there. So the state government fought that issue by erecting the water pumps with the manual submersibles. So the water pumps was a solution, though it is not a total solution of the whole thing. Uh, uh, Now let us go to another savior of the Asiatic lion, and it became my responsibility to let people know. For those who do not know about it, of course, there are a lot of people who know better than I do here. So the forests of Sasan Gir were the private hunting grounds of the Nawabs of Junagadh, one of them standing on your screen right there. Incidentally, the first steps of conservation of the Asiatic lion were taken up by the enlightened Nawab Rasul Khan Ji Babi, who is on your screen right there. He's the first man who brought up these rules and regulations for the hunting lions, as in a game hunting, and he had an audacity to say no to the uh, Viceroy of India, who said, "I've shot so many tigers, but I haven't shot an Asiatic lion." And he said there are only 22 left in the wild. After the great famine of Saurashtra or Kathiawad area in 1900s, he came up with this idea and he implemented law of fining people and jailing people to an extent where executing people if they were found guilty of killing a lion without a reason. And he took up conservation measures, as I told you, at a time when there were only 22 left in the wild. His initial efforts of Nawab Rasul Khanji led the Asiatic lion population rise around uh, to 280 in 1992, and today is around roughly 625 as in 2020. Next slide, please. Bye. Now, Nawab Rasul Khanji and his successor, Nawab Mahabad Khanji, they issued the Saurashtra postage. Saurashtra is one of the biggest, Sorat or the Junagadh princely kingdom is one of the biggest princely kingdoms of Saurashtra. In Gujarat, there are many princely kingdoms, more than what you find in Rajasthan. But in Saurashtra region, Junagadh has a 17-gun salute, while Baroda in mainland Gujarat has 21-gun salute. So only Baroda is bigger than Junagadh. So they issued their postage stamps, as you can see, the half-ana postage stamp, and I have this with me, which is Saurashtra postage. So they have given the tribute to our Asiatic lion. Next slide, please. Bye. Now, interesting. Subspecies, of the Asiatic lion. Up to the end of turn of the century, at the end of the, sorry about that, turn of the century, they were there in Asia Minor. So we had two species back then: the Panthera leo persica, which was found in Asia Minor, and the Panthera leo gujaratensis, or the Indian lion, was back then called. Our lion was called the Panthera leo gujaratensis back then, but now it has been just Panthera leo persica, because the Asiatic lion is in the Asia Minor is all gone. So only one species is now recognized. Next slide, please. This is interesting. Now the beautiful, or the equivalent, as we would rather call it, the African lion, and it has a lot of subspecies still as of today. The Panthera leo masaicus, or the Maasai lion in the eastern part of Africa, what we call the Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda areas. The Panthera leo senegalensis, which is the western part of Africa in Senegal area. Panthera leo Belenbergi, or the Rhodesian lion, which is the south central part, Zambia and Zimbabwe areas, also Angola and Zaire to an extent. Panthera leo krugeri, or the Transvaal lion, which is the famous Kruger National Park in South Africa, has this species. The Panthera leo, or the Barbary lion, which was in the northern part of Africa, but the Arabs had this tendency of hunting, so it's all extinct now. There is no Barbary lion left. Panthera leo Melakon Shaita, or the Cape lion, which was between Cape Town to Natal in southern Africa. So this was a bit species away from the Kruger National Park species, Krugeri. So these are the different African subspecies. If we can go to the next slide, please. So now let me, before I hang up the boots for me, and before Mohit bhai steps in, what we can do. Of course, when you are at Gir, the best place to stay, my recommendation, always stay with the owners who know about nature, wildlife, and conservation. And this is not just buttering up Mohit bhai, but honestly, Mohit bhai and the Asian Adventure teams, they are much into, not just Mohit bhai, his entire staff know about conservation, the aspects of conservation. So I would personally, recommend people when they are at Gir, try and go to the Gir Birding Lodge right there, because you'll get staff members who know everything about the forest. If not everything, the primary thing, they'll give you a good guidance as well. So that's where you should go. But as we talk, about the majestic lions and birding paradise, if there were no lions, Gir would still have been birding paradise. uh, you can go and act with the CDs in the two villages that I can, interact with them, know about them, their ethnicity, the anthropological aspect of it. Then you can also visit the major rivers, the Hiran and the Shingoda rivers, and see the crocodiles. Go angling, take your fishing, kit, and just go and try your angling skills out. You can also take a ride to the Junagadh city, which is very beautiful and historical city. Although not much has been done by I dare say, the governments, successive governments to do it, but because it was erstwhile princely kingdom and one of the richest princely kingdoms of India, the architecture aspect, the culture aspect. Go and see the Mahabat Maqbaras, where our Nawab, the one that we showed on the slide, has been buried. One of the best maqbaras you will ever get to see. The beautiful museums and the palaces. Go to the Sakarbagh Zoo, which is one of the first zoos in India, made by the Nawab at Junagadh, in the Junagadh city. The Upperkot Fort in Junagadh city has Buddhist caves, step wells of the Jains, the Jama Masjid, and two huge cannons of the Ottoman army. Ottoman, that is the Turkish army. And Turkish army came to Diu, so that there are two these huge cannons right there. Very importantly, one of the first and the most important Jyotirling of the 12 Jyotirlings in the Hindu faith is the Somnath, and Somnath temple is the must visit. If at all you are looking something else from, it's 70 kilometers of Gir National Park, so you can take an excursion right there. The Portuguese island, which was freed by the Indian government in after 1970, of Diu, is a must go if you have time. Churches and caves and pristine beaches. So much for the Gir National Park. Being a Gujarati, being a Ahmedabadi, I invite all of you to come to Gujarat, see the majestic Asiatic lion, and give us a chance to serve you. We are always around. Mohit Bhai, of course, is around. I am around. You can see my details right there. And I thank the Asian Adventure team and Mohit Bhai for giving me this wonderful opportunity, for having trust in me. Mohit Bhai, just one word, and Mohit Bhai say, Haseeb, I trust you, and you will give. I don't know if I did or not. That's a secondary thing, but he just gave me a chance to be around and just come and talk to you about the lovely subject of the Asiatic lion. Thank you, Mohit Bhai. Thank you to the
Thank you.
Asian
Thank you
Adventure
very
team.
much. Thank you
And
very much, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us. It was absolutely wonderful. It was, Haseeb, this slideshow was enlightening because a lot of us know about lions today, but we didn't know, a lot of us didn't know the history. We didn't know where they came from, or, Nishant has been asking this question that did uh, did lions and tigers coexist at the turn of the century? So you may want to answer that right
they
now.
did exist. They did coexist at the turn of the century. They did. I'll point out the regions to you. The first region is northern Gujarat areas, just below Rajasthan border, in the areas of Banaskantha and Sabarkantha, all the way up to Surendranagar. The tigers were there. The tigers from the Maharashtra belt crept in through the Melghat regions into what we now call the Dang area of uh, uh, southeastern Gujarat. And then they crept into the principality of Vasda, which now falls into the Valsad area, Dharampur area of South Gujarat. And still at times in Dang, a tiger is sighted because it is a Maharashtra connection that it comes down. But they did not venture into Saurashtra area because the terrain was not tiger. Tigers love to be more in colder areas, and Gujarat, as in my initial speech I told you, can be a testing place, a hell when you come here in summer. So tigers just didn't go into the Saurashtra because humidity, being a peninsula, is more, so it's more hotter.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to quickly go through some of the slides that I have prepared for Gir Birding Lodge. That's a lodge that we run there, and it's a place for wildlife first. And I'll tell you the philosophy that we hold behind it. We want to talk about that briefly, very quickly. Gir Birding Lodge is the first birding lodge in Gujarat, and it's right adjacent to the main boundary of the park. It's right next to Bamba Fold Gate, and it is the mango orchard, which 15 years ago when we started, these trees were small, but now it's really a great place for bird watchers. Lots of species you can see in and around the place, and it's tucked away into the corner. So it's not really on the main road, and it's not. So if you're a traveler or a tourist and you're looking for a place which is a wildlife place, then this is the place to stay. Anyway, this is I'm not talking about the lodge aspects too deeply here. My interest is to show you what.
If I can just tell about Gir Birding Lodge, just one statement.
Yeah.
I have known many friends who have stopped over at Gir Birding Lodge, and many times they have told me in the middle of the night, giving me a call, we are standing in the Gir Birding Lodge, and through the gate, jumping through the gate, a lion has just come and is brushing its back on the walls.
So that's true. We've had cases where people have, been on the first floor all night and they haven't been able to go to the rooms because there've been lions in the compound. So it's right there. So these are some of the shots, but this is not something which is of great concern because it's just a resort and it's a fantastic resort, no doubt about it. What I want to bring out to you is the promotion of ecotourism. So we have a very energetic, very enthusiastic lady there, Alam. She's from Nagaland, and single-handedly and with her team, she's been doing so many things to at the lodge. As you can see, she's been growing vegetables there. She's been doing organic farming there. She's been driving these campaigns to clean up the plastics, and she's a no nonsense person, and she's there to deliver all the values, all the great values, ethical values at the lodge to people. And that is what I wanted to talk about. The whole idea of creating this lodge was to start with bird tourism 15 years ago in a big way, and that's what has happened. So we've done our job really. But the point is that the sustainability has to be looked at. And the sustainability of ecotourism has to be brought in at every angle, social angle, cultural angle, environmental angle, each and every angle. And this is what this lady is doing. So I'm really, really pleased and hats off to her that she's been doing such a wonderful job with her team. And the next point that I wanted to bring out was that I want people to be not tourists. I want people to be ecotourists. So when I say ecotourists, it's not just about taking away the values that you have, but immersing yourself, going there and leaving Delhi and Ahmedabad and Baroda behind, you know, and being the resident, the denizen of Gir forest. So just go there, be that person who lives there. And then you see that a lot of dimensions will open up. People will open up. The rural tourism will open up. Their value systems, cultures, uh, uh, everything will open up for you, and you will be one of them. And that is what we need from each person today. Instead of saying Wi-Fi nahi hai, ye nahi hai, beer nahi milta hai, and all that you can get at home anyways. But I'm saying go there and be a gear wala. Be there to not just for the lions, but go to Maldhari Nest. Understand, what their value systems are, how do they live, and see how you can contribute. So it's not just about your takeaway because you're giving money. It's your responsibility to give back. So you go back home, you write about them, you write a blog, you write an article, you showcase your photos, you talk about their aspirations, you talk about their struggles, you talk about things that we need to do and how much kachra we do, how much filth we spread around, and what we can do to stop all of that. So this lady has taken upon herself to go an extra mile uh, to take this further. So that's what I wanted to talk about. Now you can see this happened on 26th of January, where slowly, steadily, the whole lot of resorts who sort of, came up and said we also want to do it, and everybody was supportive of what she was doing. So fantastic, absolutely. And this is so rural tourism. You've downloaded this already. I've shared it with you, so I'm not going to go through the details of this right now, of handicrafts, of Maldari villages. We can talk about this another time in detail, and I will have lots to talk about. Like Haseeb Bhai has spent an hour and a quarter talking about the history, and he's just given you only a bit of it. All that knowledge, all that, is a walking encyclopedia. So, friends, some of the sites that you will see, our Siddhi friends, and they're not museum pieces. Let me tell you very, very clearly. You could have Dhamal and you could pay them, but are we respecting who they are as humans, or are we just using them because it's a tribe and they can dance around for you and you can sit in the corner and have barbecue? What is it that you will do to be with them, to be who they are? You know what I mean? So this is how we need to go further and understand various other parts of Gir and what Gir has to offer. So deepest gratitude to all the photographers who've contributed to making this slideshow such a great one, and absolutely fantastic photos because they move the earth, they move everyone who's been watching. I've shared this with you. This is our contact. Get in touch with us for anything that you need at Gish. So I hope you enjoyed yourselves, friends. And it's time to say goodbye. It's 9 o'clock. We are 20, well, we moved to 9. We're 27 minutes past our closing time. So thank you very much, Haseeb Bhai. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I know you've got questions which we haven't answered, but I will answer those questions as we go along. You'll get those answers on email and you'll be able to see your concerns are addressed.
Apologies for taking some time.
No, it's
Apologies.
fine. Absolutely wonderful because your presentation, your knowledge needed that much of time. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done justice to.
Just
Uh,
before we all close down, this is the what I call the Bible on the Asiatic lion.
can
It
you
is
just
the
bring it
first.
closer? Because we can't see it very well. So just bring it a little closer. Who's the author?
M.A. Rashid, my mentor.
Okay, excellent.
And
Excellent.
from this book, 150 other books have been written ever since. And so this is what I consider. It's got amazing statistics.
Fantastic. So, love you all, friends, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm so happy, so grateful that you all are here. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Good night. Thank you, Asif. Bye. Bye bye. Good night.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Bye.